Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner, operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our program today. Now, if you have been one of our avid listeners to our podcast, what you will know is that, or realize, is what we take an individual film, and me and a special guest or two will dissect it, critique it, analyze, have a general conversation about this film in order to give you, our listeners, a kind of an insight about the film, whether you've seen it or have not seen it. We are hoping that if you have seen it, we will give you kind of an insight on wanting to go back and rewatch it, because that's what we do with horror movies. We go back and rewatch the ones we enjoy. That being said, the one that we're going to be talking about today is something I know a lot of people enjoy. But before I get to the title of that film, I would like to bring in my special guests, Mr. Philip Ray and Mr. Thomas Tinnarello. Thank you guys for joining me on this glorious day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mr. Powers.
All right, and the movie we are talking about is The Little Shop of Horrors, which is one of my favorite musicals of all time. I just love this movie. How about you, Thomas?
It is literally my favorite musical of all time. And I don't really like musicals that much, as I know you don't either. But my goodness, when I saw this, I think in elementary school, I think because it was horror tinged, because there's a killer plant in it, because there's, Steve Martin in it, my goodness, I fell in love with that. Also, I'm sure like the puppet aspect of it was pretty good too, because Frank Oz does some amazing puppetry work in this.
How about you, Philip?
Yeah, no, I remember seeing it on TV and was I really like puppets too. And it's funny because seeing Steve Martin later and stuff, like I hadn't fully registered that was Steve Martin when I first saw it. And then after I was like, oh crap, it's Steve Martin. And yeah, it's very good.
I'm laughing at you, Philip, because we're not talking about the 1986 musical of Little Shop of Horrors, dude.
We were trying to prank you, and you called our bluff.
You called our bluff. You are ready to do what we're supposed to be doing tonight, which is the Little Shop of Horrors from 1960, right?
Yes. You guys scared me a little bit with that.
That's what we're...
So, Kevin, what we should have done is we should have just kept going and see how long it would take to see that. Dang it, we messed up. We should have just kept going to see Philip squirm, and as soon as you started squirming, then we should have dropped it on him.
I didn't want to make our audience squirm when they see the title as the 1960s, and we're talking about the 1986 movie.
Oh, but dude, that's how cringe humor works, man. Have you seen Arrested Development?
No, for everyone listening, we are really talking about the 1960 version, the Roger Corman original film, and not the musical version. We will talk about that one much later this year.
I will be there. Promise you that. I will freaking be there for that. Because I got some stories.
But the ideal is that, yes, we do love both versions of this movie for different reasons, since they are very different films, yet going over the same type of story. So, for real, Philip, what kind of are your thoughts on the 1960 version of Little Shop of Horrors?
So it was very funny because I didn't even know. I probably, like a lot of the younger viewers, probably was only originally familiar with the musical version and didn't know it was based on a non-musical version in the 1960s. So when I found that out, I was to prep for this episode, I went and saw it. And again, you can find it on YouTube because it's just because it's still like in the public domain and stuff. So no, this movie was so funny. I'll talk a little bit more about it, but it made me think of this style of movie and stuff. But no, I thought it was very funny.
And speaking of which, in terms of like where you can find this movie, I don't recommend using YouTube. I do recommend going to Tubi, because God bless Tubi, they're doing the good Lord's work. There are multiple versions of this movie on Tubi. There's even a colorized version on Tubi, which I hate colorized black and white movies, so don't ever do that. But I did find one, I think it's got the thumbnail with the original poster art on it. If you're gonna watch this, ladies and gentlemen, watch that version with this. It's like got a white backdrop with a like Parisian looking man and a plant that's about to eat his head. Click on that tile and you will get a restored black and white version of this movie that has the cleanest print I have ever seen of this movie.
Yeah. When I rewatched it, and it's been years since I've seen the movie actually. When I rewatched it, I saw the Tubi black and white version as well, and I thought it was really, really, really good. That being said, my experience with this is a kind of a crazy one because as me and Thomas have already discussed it off camera, I was not a huge fan of the original musical in '86 when I very first saw it. But after people kept telling me about this movie, I decided to go back and watch the original one because my parents own the original one, so I've had the original black and white one in a VHS in our collection like for years. I just never bothered to watch it. But because I had it, I watched it, and I'm like, oh, this is an interesting movie. Let me go back and watch the other one again just to see if I was like, mistaken. And of course, like I told Thomas, nah, my feelings were still shaded about the fact that in the '80s and early '90s, I hated musicals and I still didn't like it. It took probably another 10, 15 years for me to enjoy the musical. But I find myself, and often, when I rewatch the musical now, I'm always watching this original one, mostly because I'm a huge fan of Roger Corman, which is why we did the Roger Corman month last year. I'm a huge Roger. I haven't seen all of his movies, but I love to go back and watch these classic movies that he did. And they're like, such innocent times. They're so much fun. And I still really enjoy this film. I keep thinking, such innocent times. So much fun. Even though I still think the ending is kind of weird and warped and kind of silly.
Oh, yeah, the ending is. We'll get to it when we get to it, but the ending is really abrupt and it's yeah, and it also doesn't help the fact that there's no credits. The credits happen at the beginning of the movie, so it's even worse. To me, it's like I had a similar experience watching some French movies from the '70s, like Jean Rollins' The Iron Rose, which, by the way, we should put that on the list. Jean Rollins' The Iron Rose has credits at the beginning of the movie, and then it has a kind of abrupt ending, and then bam, it just ends. There's no credits, no nothing. There's not even a title card for the studio at the end. There's not even a rating. Sometimes at least with the American movies, you get the rating thing at the end, even if there's no credits or anything. This had nothing. It was just bam, done. So I was like, what? I don't know what to do with myself now. Because me personally, I'm saying I'm so used to like the ritual of a movie where credits, movie, credits, ending.
Yeah.
And if you break any part of that, something feels weird. I don't know what it is, but yeah, there's that aspect of it, and also like it's very it's a farce, It's not. There's not a whole lot more to it. It is a farce in a modern kind of Borscht Belty sort of tradition. And honestly, I feel like a lot of Corman aficionados will probably say, instead of watching the musical and this back to back, what you should do is you should watch this and Bucket of Blood back to back.
That's interesting.
Because a lot of people say that this movie is nothing more, nothing less than a remake of Bucket of Blood. Because if you think about it, it's the exact same plot. It's just instead of an artist in the beatnik community, he's a guy in a plant shop, and instead of killing people to make art, he's killing people to feed a plant. It's the same daggum thing.
And for everyone listening, we have done an episode on A Bucket of Blood already. So yeah, I didn't think about that till you just mentioned it. You're absolutely right.
So I found this movie, first off, I knew it existed when I saw the musical, but I never had bothered to watch it because I love the musical so dang much. I was like, I would only be disappointed, I thought. But like I'd seen clips of it on other stuff years after, I think. And then I got a gig not really a job because they didn't pay me, but I got a gig working as trying to get basically I was trying to be trained to be an editor on this public access show called Archaeology TV, which was a public access history type show that aired on local access in St. Petersburg back in the 2020s, not 2020s, but back in 2003 or 4 or 5 is when I did this. So to train me on their Avid, they had me go and the guy who ran the station or whatever, or ran that part of the station, brought me back to his Avid and basically had me practice by cutting together this huge collection he had of trailers for B movies from the 50s and 60s. I mean, there was just a random wild assortment of trailers for things like, the Crimson Horror and Hercules and the Haunted World, and then this movie. So I saw like really good 35 millimeter clips from this movie in the trailer. So that's where I first started seeing the OG, as it were, Little Shop. And then a couple years later after that, a friend of mine named Jessup, who was like my best friend at church for years, and we played D&D together. And he actually gave me I think it was called Treasure Trove Video, had I guess it's like one step above a bootleg DVD of this movie. It had like a very thin DVD cover, like the kind of thing you get at the dollar store. Yeah, he gave me that as a Christmas present. So it's very appropriate that we are, as we record this, we are very close to the holidays, that I got this movie as a Christmas present one year. And that's how I first watched it in a very bad print on this DVD. I don't even know. They must have just ported it from the VHS or something.
It's in public domain, so like it's on all the public domain, like 20 classic movie collections out there. It's all out there.
Yeah, so you know what, we should, for the Patreon guys, why don't we just, if it's public domain, what we could do, we could just pause the podcast right now, queue up the movie, and do a scene by scene commentary of it and sell it because it's public domain and they can't stop us.
Oh Jesus! All right. So, how should we start our conversation really with this film? Because I do believe that because of the whole Audrey 2 and the man-eating plant and the musical, the plot, everyone knows generally what the plot is, but we need to touch upon the stuff that some people might not know about the film. I mean, like Mike's son knows about the damn Audrey 2 more so than any of the movies because he's never seen the movies because I have an Audrey 2 in my office. So, it's one of those things where so many people are familiar with the Audrey 2, or I think it was not called Audrey 2 in this.
It's not in this movie. In this movie, it's the Audrey Junior. It's the Audrey Junior. They call it.
Yeah. Which I never thought about because I kept going back and forth watching the movies as double feature. I have always just called it the Audrey 2 until I paid attention on the rewatch and say, wait a second, it's not called the Audrey 2 in the original 60 movie.
Now, have you shown your son the animated series of the movie?
I didn't know there was one.
There was one. There was a Saturday morning cartoon called Little Shop of Horrors, and it was about a young boy named Seymour and his pet talking plant and their adventures.
Oh my God. No, I was not familiar with this. So
yep, I think it was on Fox or NBC or something like that. Yeah,
it was on Fox TV, and now Disney owns it.
Oh, so I could probably Disney owns it. It's buried among all the stuff that it's buried with the Star Wars holiday special. It's never going to see the light of day again.
One season, 13 episodes.
Oh my God. Yeah, such bad. But yes, I mean, generally speaking, Seymour I think is the only Seymour in the history of film whose name that is, who's a main character also.
Seymour Krelborn, his full name is.
Seymour Krelborn is a neebish little guy who works in a flower shop of all places. And he can't get anything right, but he has this this what do you call it? This goal to be a great what's the word what's the job that they do? Horticulture? Is that what it is?
Yeah, horticulturist.
Horticulturalist. So he has a secret at his own house, and he's on the verge of being fired from Mr. Mushnik. I want to Gravis Mushnik. I love that now. His name Mushnik. And
yeah, all the names are the same from this movie to the even Mrs. Shiva is the same. And Mrs. Shiva, the first customer at the beginning of the movie, I was surprised. She is also the first customer in the musical. So I was surprised even somebody as small as a part as Mrs. Shiva is still around.
Yeah. Well, for the most part, the general plot of this movie until the third act really it follows pretty well. But because the third act, and this is the thing I found about when I was rewatching this, the whole time I was rewatching this film, and you two both chime in on this one. I'm watching this film and I realized how much of a non-horror movie this actually is. This is a slapstick comedy.
Yeah, it's a farce.
It's a farce. It is truly like when I was a kid, for some reason, because my mother owned it and she only bought really horror movies for the most part, these black and white movies, I always mistook this movie for being like a horrifying horror movie.
Yeah, it's funny because there's really only one little sequence in this movie that touches on genuine horror, and weirdly it was the one part that my friend Jessup was like severely disturbed by. Like it literally disturbed him. Like he couldn't watch it for really, it creeped him out. And it's the scene where Seymour has killed the dentist and chopped him to pieces, and unlike the musical where you don't even see the chopping and you see a little bit of the feeding, but you don't see the parts. But in this version, you do see Seymour take a severed hand and hover it over the plant as it's chomping, and basically squeezing out blood and viscera from the hand. It's a lot. It's not quite as gross as I'm describing it, because the effects are so low budget. But the implication is horrific. Like he's squeezing it out, and the plant is just going chomp, chomp, chomp. But what makes it terrifying, I think, what makes it disturbing, is that in order for Seymour to psych himself up to do this, he starts singing "Jingle Bells, Jingle Jingle all the way," which I guess makes this a Christmas movie.
I was thinking the same thing, actually. When I was rewatching it, I was like, why is he singing Jingle Bells unless this is taking place during that time period? I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, because that's a detail I just never noticed until we really watched it for the podcast. It's like, I've seen the movie, I don't know how many times I've seen the movie, and it just never clicked. I
think it is supposed to be set around the holidays, because at the beginning of the movie, he's singing Auld Lang Syne at the top of his lungs off screen, which is like the New Year's Eve song. And so I think originally it was supposed to probably be in winter, but I guess Corman didn't have enough money for fake snow. But notice how everyone's bundled up for winter. Like Seymour's got a scarf on most of the time. Everyone's wearing coats. And I think it's probably, I think the writer probably intended it for it to be a Christmas movie, but it just never came across on screen because they shot this movie in 2 days and 1 night.
Really?
You don't know that? That's what this movie's famous for.
Yeah, it was rumored that it was a dare, but that wasn't apparently true.
No, Corman set the record straight in an interview later.
Really?
Yeah.
My problem is that he's done so many things and shot so many movies, reusing stuff over and over again and taking pieces from one film and plastering in another film, that I kind of lose track of it. But I don't think I recall ever hearing that. That's interesting.
Oh yes. He shot it in 2 days and 1 night, and it's so efficiently shot that when Seymour's we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but when Seymour's fighting the dentist, there's supposed to be this big duel basically between Seymour and the dentist having the drill in his hand, and they were gonna like fight like dueling drills or something, and there was gonna be this whole thing, but they were running out of time, and then all of a sudden, the guy playing Seymour, Jonathan Cove, I think his name was, but anyway, he kicks over the dentist chair. The whole thing just flips over and breaks. So then Roger Corman said, that he looked at it and he was like, "Can we fix the thing?" And they're like, "Yeah, it'll take a while." And then Roger Corman just looks at the thing, gets out his script and says, tears out the page, like, "The scene ends with the dentist chair falling over. Moving on."
Yeah, something similar happened too with surprise cameo of Jack Nicholson, who again, this was very early on. Jack Nicholson, his scene too was supposed to go on longer, but same deal. Basically, the dentist stuff started to tip over and it fell over, and then Corman just said, "Cut, this on to the next scene," which is why that scene is so abrupt. Was because literally, like, it was supposed to go on longer, but the thing tipped over, and Corman was like, "Okay, yeah, we're behind. We're gonna just move on."
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you are an aspiring filmmaker out there and you are a low budget filmmaker and maybe you're getting ready to do one of those 48-hour film competitions, let it be known. Watch the original Little Shop of Horrors and say to yourself, "I can do better than that." And you probably can.
That being, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that shows, like, with the budget being like low. Like, I think some of the funnier scenes were like, again, when Gravis first like Seymour feeding Audrey Jr. and stuff, and they do a shot of him where he's clearly not looking at it. He's somewhere else, but they're shining the flashlight, and he has like this dazed look of like, was very funny, of like already like moments like that. Or I mean, one thing that like came off like, it looks cheap, but the fact that you could tell they kind of did it still was impressive, was the railroad scene.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they did
where the
that
cops are chasing him.
Yeah. They filmed the scene backwards is how they were able to get it. But again, you can also tell it's low budget because you don't see the it's always, oh, you see the train coming and then they cut, and then he just happens to have a foot to feed Audrey Jr. and stuff. Because they obviously did not want to like spend more money on that type of stuff.
No, but well, yeah, I don't want to get too much to the end in the whole chase sequence that seems ridiculously long. But yeah, I don't know why when I was younger I used to think this was a horror film. And then when I
got horror in the title.
Yeah, no, that doesn't mean shit in this day and age. But when I finally learned to appreciate the musical, and I actually really enjoyed the original when I watched my double feature, it became this, like, the musical. Like my brother would have said, "Yeah, it's a horror musical," and I don't actually consider the musical a horror film either. It has Rick Moranis. How could it possibly be a horror film? But the thing is, I have gone into both these films with absolutely no expectations, and I find them to be so entertaining, and that like they warm the cockles of my heart for this one, especially in its low budgetness. It's one of those movies that you're like, oh man, look at this movie. If I was a modern day audience, I honestly believe that modern day audiences who have no history with either one of the two films would probably hate this movie. They
probably.
I think it varies, right? I think it depends on the person, because the way what I was going to mention earlier is when I was watching this movie, what it made me think a lot about it, because I was laughing a lot while watching this movie.
Yes.
It reminded me a lot of like the Mel Brooks or the Police Squad type of humor. Like that's what this reminded me of a lot. So, which is funny because, we had the modern remake of Police Squad recently and stuff that very much reminiscent of the TV show's stuff. So with modern audiences, I think it depends on how they handle stuff like that. Because like if they watch like Police Squad and they loved it, I think they will watch this and love it, because that's how I was. If they didn't like that type of humor, they probably won't like this. So I think it's kind of mixed with it.
It's interesting. It's interesting to say. I think you may be onto something with that one.
Well, it does start off like an episode of Dragnet. Like it literally parodies Dragnet with the opening narration. He's like, "This is my beat. I am Officer Joe Fink."
Yeah, I know. You're right. I didn't think about Dragnet, and I should have, considering I'm a huge fucking Dragnet fan. I should have saw that, but I didn't see the parallel. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it parodies Dragnet and also saves a lot of money by not showing a shot of Skid Row, but a drawing of Skid Row that the production designer probably sketched that afternoon.
And that's what it reminds me a lot of, like someone like the Mel Brooks or again like the Police Squad type of humor, like small moments that again reminded me of that. It's like there's a moment where it's when Seymour and Audrey, the original, are having dinner and they're talking about like, oh, would you like this napkin? She's like, no, and he just throws it and stuff. It's just small moments like that. That's that type of humor. It's either play on words, or it's a small play on like expectations and stuff. Like, you got the one guy who comes into the floral arrangement shop and all he does is eat flowers, and he's talking about how he eats flowers, and he's describing like, oh yeah, I go to this, and it's like, oh yeah, for dinner my wife's cooking this type of flower.
Gardenias.
And again, it's wordplay. It's wordplay, and
which again, you can eat gardenias apparently.
Now, I do have to mention that this is the movie, or that's the character that the immortal Dick Miller is playing, and I still love every time he shows up in this movie. That's probably another reason why I watch this movie as much as I have, because I love Dick Miller.
And he was the star, of Bucket of Blood. Yeah. So again, this movie is just Bucket of Blood.
Which actually, they offered him the role of Seymour, but he was like, no, I don't want to be the main character again. So he elected for the role he got,
and thus his career was started.
as a co-star or a secondary character in so many great movies,
as a legendary character actor amongst character actors.
I will say this though, I probably watched this a lot more after I became a Dick Miller fan than before I knew who Dick Miller was. I knew his face, mostly because of Gremlins and everything Dante did. But then at some point after, while I was in film school, I realized who Dick Miller fucking was. And I started watching everything that he was in because he was such a great character actor. So everyone listening, I did do like a paper on Roger Corman in film class, which is why I like Roger Corman's films, even though I still have yet to see like the 2,000 movies he produced / directed. But that being said, a lot of the ones I have seen, I've rewatched a lot. No matter how bad they are, no matter how mediocre they are, no matter how juvenile they are, they have this thing about them that makes you want to just watch them and just cling to them. And people like Dick Miller, who shows up in a lot of them, are just one of those added little bonuses.
One thing I feel like that Corman's films have. And he made so many different kinds of movies. He made so many different genres, not just horror and sci-fi. He did gangster movies. He did, indie dramas. He did a social issue movie with William Shatner about racism called The Intruder, which is the only movie he lost money on, apparently. But apparently it's his best movie. But which I would argue, no, Frankenstein Unbound is his best movie. But and his last one. But I think one thing that all these things have in common, and this one does too, is they all have tremendous economy of story, and they all have just pace. Everything just goes. Like in the beginning of this movie, we establish all the main characters in the first 5 minutes, including the dentist, who in the remake doesn't even show up till like 15-20 minutes in. But in this one, he gets a phone call. Mushnick gets a phone call from Lawrence Scrivello, DDS, saying, "I need some ficus or something for my waiting room." He's like, "What? You want some crazy piece of crap?" He's like, "What do you want such crappy plants for?" He's like, "I just want it for my waiting room," and giddy up on it, scram, And then he hangs up the phone. And he's like, to his patient, now you're really going to get it. Ha ha. And just starts drilling into him.
The dentist who can't do his job properly. Like, I'd be afraid to go in that dentist's office. It's so hilarious what goes on in there.
Oh, he loves giving people pain. I mean, that's just, he's a sadist.
Thank you.
And and what's again, and just like the jokes with that too, of just like, again, it's like with talking about pacing again, I think the pacing of the jokes were done well too, of like there's not a lot of like there's not a lot of moments where they deliver a joke and it's like there's a pause of like, oh, isn't it supposed to, like, it's just rattling joke after joke after joke after joke that's like either you catch someone or you won't catch it, but you'll be laughing at some point because it doesn't let you let you stop. It doesn't dwell on a joke for too long. It's just move on to the next joke, and either it's a visual or it's a small one or it's a wordplay, but it's just the whole movie is just bam, 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 bam with jokes.
Yeah.
They don't give you any pause to laugh either. If you're missing, which even today, some comedians and comic writers still wrestle with do I leave a pause there for the laugh? Because if they laugh, they're not gonna get the next joke. But most of the time, it doesn't matter if they don't get the next joke. That's the whole point of watching it again.
Well, that's why a live experience is very different than the actual filmed experience.
Yeah. Although if we had seen this as a non-musical, like dinner theater play, it wouldn't be that different, except that the pace would be a little bit slacker, just to allow the laughs to breathe a little bit more.
You're right. But I will say this: I do watching this movie again when we were doing this podcast here. I did kind of miss the singing aspects. It's now grown on me. Unfortunately, it has. It's grown. As I was rewatching it, I was like thinking of the song because I didn't watch the musical right after I rewatched this movie. I just literally rewatched this version for the podcast, and I didn't watch the other one like I normally would. And I'm thinking about the songs as I'm going through the movie. I'm like, God damn it!
Down on Skid Row.
See, I felt that way with Audrey Jr. I'm so used to the low.
Yeah.
Feed me. So when I'm hearing kind of like the raspy, like, feed me, hey, feed me, like I was just not expecting that.
It's so jarring. It's so jarring. We always pictured the Killer Plant as a booming black man, not as some like. And in fact, I used to think about this. I used to think about because every now and then there will be rumors of a remake of the musical, and I always think to myself, who else could possibly be the voice of Audrey too? And I keep thinking to myself, and also I thought about like this when I was in high school, and we thought about the idea of doing that as like a musical in high school, and I thought about, well, if I did the voice of Audrey too, how could I make it different? And I thought, well, I don't know, how could you make it different? Maybe you could do it as like a lounge lizard, like a Frank Sinatra type voice, and then I thought, wouldn't it be great if instead it was like Christopher Walken as Audrey too?
That would be amazing.
Feed me, Seymour, feed me now.
You can get Patrick Warburton to do it, and that'd be.
Oh my God, Patrick Warburton! Oh my God, that would be awesome too.
You gotta feed me, Seymour. You gotta do it right now.
But yeah, that's one of my. That's if I'm gonna have anything bad about saying anything about this movie right now, it's gonna be that because for my the last 10, 15 years, and I've seen this probably 5 or 6 times in the last 5, 6 years. I think I've been because I own both of them, so I've seen them multiple times together in the last 5, 6 years post COVID. It would be that my brain has now been wired to only hear Audrey 2 as one voice now.
And that voice was Levi Stubbs of the Four Tops.
Yeah, we talked about that because I still am a huge Four Tops fan. So, but yeah, it would be hard for me. Yeah, I think Christopher Walken would be the most fun.
Because we know he could sing. And we know he can dance, although he wouldn't be dancing as the plant, obviously, unless they did some weird thing with some kind of body
Motion
snatcher type
capture.
thing.
Of course, it'd be motion capture.
Oh,
It'd be,
yes, that's right. That's right. They could. Yes. Yes, indeed.
yeah. You know what? I think it'd be kind of hard to do a non-musical version of this because this version right here is such a product of its time. It would be like trying to redo The Producers as a non-musical. I don't think anyone would like if you're gonna watch it, you're just gonna watch the original with what's his face. Oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on the main actor's name.
Gene Wilder and Zero
Thank
Mostel.
you. Oh my god, I was drawing a blank on The Producers, which I should not be doing. I think it would be hard to do a non-musical version of this.
Yeah, you couldn't because for that particular movie, the brand of that musical has become so ingrained in the popular consciousness, especially because they did a movie musical of it. Same thing with this movie. The brand of that musical and the movie musical is so ingrained in the public consciousness. People are aware this movie exists. They just don't care.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah. Except for people like us, because we're classic. We love classic movies just as much as we love modern movies. And so we go back and we can watch a film like this from the '60s, which, in all honesty, is not considered one of the greatest cinematic achievements out there.
No, it isn't. But once you realize this movie was made in 2.5 days, basically.
2.5 days. Oh my God, what Corman created and crafted in 2.5 days is just crazy. I don't know how I missed that detail at all. But that being said, I had, unlike other people, other filmmakers that we've discussed on the show before, I have never read a book about Roger Corman. I've read books about all the major horror film directors. I've never read one about Roger Corman. So I know very little about him in regards to all his filmmaking and his producing aspects. I just know of him as the guy who produced and directed a lot of movies and helped a lot of actors and directors and editors and special effects people make their mark in the industry. The
closest thing that is second to this in terms of like directing hat tricks that he performed is probably The Terror, because with The Terror he had like 3 days with Karloff or something like that, because like he just finished The Raven and he shot that so well that they finished like 3 days or 4 days ahead of schedule. And Karloff was like, well, nice throwing you. So, and Corman was like, actually, Boris, I've still got you for 3 more days. And we have this script called The Terror, which he kind of lied because it really wasn't a finished script. They never really had a finished script for The Terror, which is why that movie makes zero sense. But anyway, so they shot an entirely different movie called The Terror with Boris Karloff and different actors other than Boris Karloff. Nobody else from The Raven is in The Terror, but I think Jack Nicholson is in The Terror, oddly enough. So he's one guy. But anyway, they just, so the way he filmed that was he filmed all the scenes for The Terror on the sets of The Raven as they were being taken down all around him. So as they were breaking down the sets, which is why the scope of that movie gets narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower until the final shot is just one guy's head against a brick backdrop. That's it, because that's all they had.
Yeah, I do. And that's another one like this one that for some odd reason I love The Terror, and I have no idea why I love The Terror. And unlike Little Shop of Horrors, there is a beautiful fucking Blu-ray copy of The Terror out there that looks fantastic. I wish there was one for this movie. I really do. I really wish there was, because I think it is a forgotten film that's that unfortunately does not get the props that it deserves. I mean, it did yield one of the a hugely influential and popular musical version. And yet this original film is not fondly remembered or remembered at all by a lot of people, except for us film connoisseurs. Because there's no great copy of it out there. We talk about the Tubi version being a great copy, but I don't believe that there has been a really good 2K or 4K version of this film released so that people can truly see the film for hopefully what Roger Corman originally intended it to be, instead of just a Skid Row movie. Uh,
Well, Roger probably wouldn't have cared that much if the people were watching it in 4K, because I mean, Roger made most of these to play at drive-ins on
yeah,
really crappy screens, so he probably would have been okay with even a colorized version of it, because as long as people were seeing it, he got the money somehow. That's
yeah.
all that really mattered to him.
So
But yeah, speaking of people he helped, we can't, move away from this movie without talking about Jack Nicholson, who on some covers of this movie, his face is plastered all over, where he's in this movie a grand total of, I think, 4 minutes.
yeah, I was about to say 5 minutes. He's an odd character in this movie, but yeah, he's only in it for like the dinner scene, and that's it. I was like, oh yeah.
Yep,
It's such an odd character too.
very odd because it kind of goes in side with the dentist and stuff of like, when Jack Nicholson sits down and he's very much hamming it up of like the character and stuff being like a sadist himself and stuff, which
Well, he's a masochist. He likes pain, but the sadist likes giving pain, so you think it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah. Which Nicholson said that like originally Corman did not want him to be in there, but when he auditioned, he was like, "Okay, I have to like be as goofy as possible," and then Corman's like, "Okay, I'll put you in. I'll put you in the story."
And that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I think because this is an early film with Jack Nicholson, I'm thinking he's just having so much fucking fun doing this movie. Even in The Terror, he does a pretty damn good job in The Terror. Has a abysmally made as that movie was, but I still find both this film and that film kind of charming in its own special way,
Mm-hmm.
But we do need.
I'm sorry. I just remembered something that there's like a big difference between this movie and the musical is that correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff fellas, but it's very clear and from the get-go in the musical that this plant is a mean green mother from outer space.
Mm-hmm.
But in this version, in the original, there is zero indication that this thing comes from space.
No, yeah, it's all they say is that he got the seeds from a Japanese gardener over in Central Avenue, which when I heard that it made me think of Gremlins.
Yes.
That's hilarious. Oh my, I never thought about that. Yeah.
And maybe it's a Japanese gardener because maybe the writer originally thought, oh, it's irradiated seeds from Hiroshima.
Yeah.
Oh my god. No, I didn't notice that on the rewatch because, like I said, I actually paid attention to the details this time around when I was rewatching it. And yes, I did notice that too. I was like, oh yeah, I guess this is just some seeds from a small town somewhere and not out of space. Like, how did I never catch that before? It's because I'm not really. I never really paid that much attention to the original 60 version until I had to because I just find it fun. Well, no, the same thing would happen to The Terror. If we were to do an episode on The Terror, I would actually sit down and figure out if it makes any fucking sense instead of just going with the flow.
It doesn't. Nobody knows the plot of The Terror. Nobody can figure it out.
I have to figure that out. And that's the weird thing with watching a Corman movie. A lot of his films don't really have they are really about going to a drive-in and watching just crazy shit happen for no apparent reason, and the logic is thrown out the window. And you don't really always care about the logic because it's entertaining.
Yes, it's funny and entertaining as all get out, and like you said, super. And also, let's face it, like Corman expected you to be making out with your girlfriend and in your Plymouth Fury while you're watching this movie. So of course,
the Plymouth Fury, huh? Yeah, that's what we're all making.
That's the first thing that came to my head, Kevin. All right. Just so happens to be the car that Christine is in the movie Christine.
Oh my god!
I'm keeping it in the genre at least.
No, that's good. I know that car very well. I have one of those little small die cast fucking versions of it. So yes, I know the car very well. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I think a lot of these 60s and 70s Corman films were very much like this. And the funny thing is, I still find them entertaining, and I never watched any of this shit in a freaking drive-in. I don't know about you two, but I've seen movies at drive-in. I don't know about you two. I don't know if you've seen.
Oh yeah, I saw Terminator 2 at the drive-in when I was like 13 years old.
Same
And
here.
also, interestingly enough, they were showing Terminator 2 on one screen, and on the screen behind me they were showing Candyman. So occasionally, that's a great double feature right there. But so I would watch Terminator, and then occasionally I would look back and see the horrific images without sound from Candyman, and I still pretty much got what the heck was going on in Candyman while I was watching Terminator 2.
Oh my god.
So yes, I've had the drive-in experience a few times. I even saw X-Men at the drive-ins in upstate New York, and it was a really crappy print, and it was kind of raining, so I could barely make out anything that was going on.
How about you, Philip? Have you ever had that experience at the drive-in of a drive-in?
I don't think I have.
Yeah.
You haven't lived, man.
You haven't.
I want to do it at least once.
You should. I think there's 2 left in Georgia, maybe 3, and that's about it.
There's the Starlight, which, yeah, I don't remember where it is, but it's in Atlanta.
Starlight's, yeah, it's off of.
You know what? Actually, that's a lie. I'm now remembering. I have done drive-through theaters, but it was at my college. It was part of a film festival.
Oh, that doesn't count. That's not. Is that real drive-through?
No, that's not a real drive-in.
No, I will tell everyone out there, the last movie I saw at the drive-in was the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I saw that at the drive-in. I took my roommate at the time. She wanted to see it. And I was like, I've already seen it. It's all good. We'll go see it. Saw it at the drive-in. That was literally the last movie I saw at the drive-in. But the drive-in experience is something I do believe that is lost on this for most people in this day and age. And it was such a great experience for me. Me and my family, we went to the drive-in all the time. We saw that one year Terminator 2 came out. We saw was it Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Terminator 2. We saw all the movies that summer. And it was a great year to see movies at the drive-in.
Yeah.
And I can just imagine what people in the 60s, when drive-ins were the thing, would have said about this movie back then. Even though Roger Corman expected people to be making out and not watching his movies.
Well, they probably would have thought, wow, that was pretty cool, but I Was a Teenage Werewolf was even better, because they would probably be a double bill with that.
But yeah, we haven't really discussed the whole drive-in, the world, but this is a perfect example of a movie that would have thrived back then in the 60s, is at the drive-in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of drive-ins, before I forget, make sure you put Targets on the list. The only horror movie in which a killer is killing people at the drive-in whilst they are watching The Terror.
Yeah, I think that one's already on the list, because I really want to talk about that one day.
Oh, good. Put me on that, because that movie it's my favorite Peter Bogdanovich movie.
Interesting.
And Karloff's finest performance.
Yeah, it is such a great performance. But okay, now I've forgotten where we were.
Well, we kind of lost the plot. I think the last thing we mentioned was the dentist dueling. I mean, basically, as soon as Seymour discovers that blood is what makes his plant grow.
Yeah.
And just like in the musical, for whatever reason, the plant seems to be passively bringing people to come and see it, and it gives him all kinds of success. Yeah. But he's got to keep feeding it. At first, he's just feeding it himself, feeding it his own blood. But eventually, I can't even remember how he decides to kill the dentist, because
the dentist was kind of an accident.
Yeah, the dentist was an accident.
Oh, that's right, because he has to go to the dentist's office to get the order to get the plant order, and then he accidentally kills the dentist. So the dentist has no relationship with Audrey in this version at all. So he gets the body, chops up the body so it can fit in the plant, because the plant's not that big yet. Actually, the plant only gets to be about, in this version, I would say at final stage, it's probably about, I don't know, 4.5 feet in circumference and maybe like 4.5 feet tall, maybe, if you don't include the straggly roots and stuff.
It gets pretty big after it eats the dentist. It gets pretty much the size of like how it is in the musical of
Yeah.
size.
Yeah, but then Seymour then this weird digression happens where like Seymour gets fed up with the plant and and fed up with the whole saying like I hate having to feed people to you, and I'm done with you. But then the plant hypnotizes Seymour, and he's like, "Yes, master. Go and get me some food." He's like, "Yes, master." And then he goes, and now he has no will of his own, and he goes out and tries to find a new victim for the plant. And this floozy comes by and flirts with Seymour at a park bench. And he's like not having it because she's like, "What do you mean you don't want to go with me?" And he goes, "Too bony."
Yeah.
And she's like, "What do you mean I'm too bony?" Look, and she like prances around him, like looking at her butt, like, "Oh, this isn't too bony for you, is it?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know."
Yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot that whole sequence. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, I mean it's in the trailer too.
You know
But
what?
yeah,
Oh, if I've ever seen the trailer for this movie, to be honest.
it's on YouTube, and I think it's on the IMDb page. It's a pretty good trailer. Like you see all the funny little moments, like when he's hiding from the cops in that graveyard of sinks and toilets, and like his head comes out of the toilet.
Yes,
That's kind of funny.
that's where the slapstick police squad starts really coming out, as that whole chase sequence, and then you start seeing where he's being chased into, and it's just pure. It's gold for a while there. It's like, oh my god, this is like Keystone Cops. It's the way that this mob is chasing after Seymour. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's all that. And there's still the love story between him and Audrey. Although poor Audrey is never ever, well, I guess she kind of figures it out at the end, but she knows she's always in the dark about what the heck's going on with Seymour. And she's like, "I can't, marry you, or I can't be with you unless you, tell me what's going on." And he's like, "I can't right now, but I'm gonna, but he can't commit to it because he can't tell her that he's feeding a man-eating plant that also talks." Uh, which nobody else hears it talk. So you can almost see this movie as like the deranged hallucination of a serial killer. It's until the very, very end. There's a very strange, abrupt ending that happens when Seymour has just ran from the cops, and gets back to the plant, which is now wide open and has got other little tiny plants growing inside it. It looks like a rainforest inside there. There's no teeth or anything. It's just a Venus flytrap mall with very cheap looking plants inside it. And he's like, "You ruined my whole stinking life." And then he keeps saying, "Feed me." He's like, "All right, I'll feed you. I'm going to feed you like you've never been fed before." And takes out a knife and just climbs into the mall, stabbing at it. Abrupt cut away, or not abrupt, but like a crossfade away. And the cops, Mr. Joe Fink and his partner, are still trying to find him. And Mushnick is all tired out, like, "I do not think you'll find him today. I do not think you'll find him today." And then they go in, and then they see something very strange, which is the plant has now budded flowers. And one of those flowers has Seymour's face on it. And the last line of the movie is his kind of catchphrase, which is, "I didn't mean it."
Yeah.
And that's it. That's how it ends. There's not even a the end. There's no. It's just
It just
done.
ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this ending. What do you think about the way the movie ended?
Well, I think what they're trying to make us think here is that the plant is basically trying to do a kind of the invasion of the body snatchers type thing, where if you feed it enough DNA, it's going to start producing plant people. I think that was its eventual end game. But for whatever reason, I guess Seymour did enough damage when he was in there that the flower kind of droops. So because we don't know what they do with the plant, if they just burn the thing or if they take it to a lab and do experiments on it and try to reproduce it, and it grows and pulsates and becomes this giant kaiju plant monster. We don't know. Corman doesn't show us any of that stuff. He's not interested in any of it. So that's my basic thing. Although I do remember reading somewhere. I used to read. I had this edition of Weird Tales magazine when I was a kid, and they had a story on there that they claim was the inspiration for Little Shop of Horrors, and it was a story called Seed, and it had to do with some guy getting a seed from a exotic plant dealer, kind of like Seymour does from the Japanese flower bender guy. And the difference is that in Seed, at the end, the plant basically gives birth to a woman, like a fully formed human woman. I think that was it. I think that it was supposed to be like the plant was like giving birth to like this reincarnation of a goddess or something. It was very kind of Lovecraftian with killer plants. So, and the story was published, I think, in like the 50s. So I think it said in the notes, supposedly the writer had read that story and decided to make a Borscht Belt farce based on it. And that's what this movie came to be. So yeah, I think that's kind of what they were going for. But again, I think Corman wasn't fully willing to commit to paying that off. Body Snatchers was still in the public consciousness, though, because I think that movie came out in 56, I want to say.
I have to look it up. The very first one, I can't remember.
Yeah, so killer plants that eat people and or take over, just destroy their bodies and then create new ones was definitely something in the public consciousness at the time. So I think it's what they were meant for us to believe. And I do love how the musical completely deviates from that.
Yeah, I do too. I think this is a weird, for me, this ending, and I don't know, what you think about it, Philip, but it's a very weird ending to me. I'd like to hear your thoughts first before I say mine.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the way I interpret it, it's kind of coincided a little bit with the musical in the 1986 about the whole kind of fame, consumerism, ambition, and stuff. Because it's all about Seymour, and talking about the difference between this and the 1986 is a little bit of the writing of Seymour. Because in this, Seymour's kind of an idiot. He's a bumbling idiot. He literally trips over everything, versus Seymour in the 1986, where he's a lot more timid and it's a little bit more of a sympathetic character, versus this character who is he's really just going along for the ride. He kind of just reacts off everything, and it's not really, the plant tells him, hey, Junior says, hey, give me, feed me. He's like, oh, okay. Again, like, Gravis is like, you need to bump up Junior or I'm going to fire you and stuff. He's like, oh, okay. So for the ending and stuff, it's kind of like for me, it was kind of like a fairy tale dark ending of like, again, like, Seymour just ends up going with the flow and ends up just continuing to, it's kind of like a tragedy a little bit too, of like, he unfortunately, like, again, he doesn't mean to kill people. He just accidentally kills people. And then he's trying to protect himself. And so the ending is basically kind of like, again, it's like a fairy tale dark tragedy type deal, where it's just like, the moral is, again, like, because again, when his face pops up, he says, I didn't mean it, is, again, it's, I saw that as kind of an example of, just like creepy imagery and stuff of just, you sow what you get and stuff. Seymour continued to, killing people by accident and stuff, and then trying to cover up and try not to take ownership, that eventually he ends up taking ownership because he ends up dying. And then the plant bloom takes his face to give a little more, like, again, like kind of like the crow, like, for Edgar Allan Poe's, like, the Raven of Nevermore is kind of how I saw it.
Yeah, I kind of saw the fact that the ending, I've always thought it was weird this is why I wanted to ask. I've always thought it was weird that, Seymour looks like he's about to go and chop up the freaking Audrey Jr., but ends up climbing inside Audrey Jr.'s mouth. And then the next thing we see is him, or an image of him now blooming out of the plant. I was always dissatisfied with that aspect of it, but I kind of, because he has the last word in the movie, I always felt that he was trying to atone for his sins that happened, even if they were inadvertent and by accident before then. He knows how wrong they were. Yet he was being pushed and bullied by the other people to keep doing it. Mushnick was trying to make overcompensate for something he had no business or even knew how he did in the first place. It was all an accident that he was then obligated to keep going. Like if he had never figured out how Audrey Jr. was able to survive by off of blood to begin with, it would have just died. But the fame, the fame and recognition which he never had from Mushnick and the other Dick Miller's character, Fersen Fuchs, this gave him, and he wanted that prize and all this type of stuff. It's stuff that no one would have ever given him had Audrey 2 or had ever, grown. It was like a drug he just couldn't stop doing, even though he knew it was wrong. And so I felt that he was trying to atone for that. I don't really care for the fact that it blooms and it has his face on it. I always forgive the movie, because he has the last say in the movie. But I just never really liked that ending.
I don't know why, but I maybe I misremembered, because clearly I rewatched that ending again, like right before we rolled here, and I was wrong. I thought that those other two blooms, those other flowers, were gonna open up and be the faces of the other victims.
That happens in the musical, and that's why you thought it. In the musical, the other blooms do open to reveal the other victims and stuff. This movie only does Seymour, and I think the musical expanded on that idea of the blooms being the other victims and stuff. Again, for me with this stuff, I didn't mind the ending, because again, for me, it's, Seymour does a lot of bad stuff, and so a little bit, so like him going into the mouth of Junior and stuff, and then obviously he dies from that, is very much, again, for me, it's because again, Seymour's kind of an idiot. They establish he's an idiot and stuff. So for him, anyone with common sense wouldn't go into the mouth of the killer plant and stuff. But the point of the movie is Seymour is an idiot. He trips over. He trips over chairs. He's kind of an idiot, and so for him, it's like, all right, I'm gonna kill this thing. Oh well, its mouth's open. I might as well go and stab it from inside and stuff. It's like, yeah, that doesn't seem out of character, really, for me at least, for it, because like, yeah, I mean, he's kind of dumb, and again, it's and he's unfortunately accumulated enough of body count that's like, I think him not dying would be kind of weird, because again, it's like, yeah, it was an accident, but again, like the first homeless guy he kills and stuff, it was an accident, but it's like he kind of has to atone for that. He kind of has to, he kind of lost his ability to have a good ending after he has his multiple murders and stuff.
But I want to before I forget this, I do want to add something to that, because as you were talking, Philip, I realized what character he reminds me so much of in another movie, which is the Jordy Verrill character in Creepshow that Stevie.
Oh, yes.
I think that these two are probably fucking cousins, because they are so much alike. Like, they all want that whole fame and fortune, and their ideals are kind of skewered, and then that whole ideal is what it leads to their downfall, both of these characters. I didn't think about that till you started talking about it. Because and it's tragic. It is, because it was tragic to see what happens to Jordy Verrill, because he is a lunkhead. He calls himself a lunkhead. He's a lunkhead, and that's how I now see Seymour. I don't think I'll be that's going to be in my head for now on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot.
that you mentioned it, it gives me a greater appreciation for Stephen King's performance as an actor in that because I kind of I think I kind of like Jordy Verrill better than Seymour because Jordy Verrill is just so goofy and so over the top and so insanely stupid that
Yeah, but if you think about it, and Philip, you brought this out as like that I had seen this one and the Rick Moranis version so often that you're right. Rick Moranis's version of Seymour is not the same as the Seymour in this original film. They are very different in the way that they operate and what happens to them.
and
Um,
that's kind of the trap that they painted themselves in with the movie musical version,
mhm.
because in and Frank Oz talked about that on the Blu-ray and the commentary, and I don't know how long it's ever going to take for us to get to do that, so I'm just going to say this now because there's so much more I could talk about for the musical anyway, but the musical movie, I should say. So in the Broadway version it also has a dark ending. It's super dark. You know, he gets eaten by the plant, and so does poor Audrey. She gets eaten by the plant too, which does not happen in this one. Um, but and the plant gets to be, sold all over the world, and the whole last song is, don't feed the plants. No matter what they offer you, don't feed the plants.
Mhm.
So it's a Faustian tale, ultimately a deal with the devil tale, a warning to everybody. But in a musical, though, as Frank Oz said, everybody gets a curtain call. Everybody who dies gets to come back at the end of the show, stand in front of the curtain, and bow. And they're still alive. And even if their character is dead, the person is still alive. So death doesn't really have the same weight in a Broadway musical comedy as it would even in a movie. Because in a movie, nobody gets their curtain call. When they're gone, they're gone. And unlike this version where Seymour's a lunkhead and really he kind of deserves everything he gets, and we don't really feel sorry for him, in the musical version movie, however, we do feel sorry for him, not least which is because Rick Moranis is one of the most lovable humans in the history of mankind. Um, and we just want him to succeed and feel so sorry for him when things don't. So so Frank Oz realized once he shot that horrible ending, which you can watch on the Blu-ray, by the way, because they restored it and put it back into the movie as a director's cut. You can't have him get eaten by the plant
Yeah.
because it's such a different take that it requires a different ending to be satisfactory,
Yeah.
to make the audience feel good. You can't just have him suffer the consequences for his Faustian bargain because it's just not fair. And I mean, yeah, sure, but anyway, the whole point though is that Frank Oz didn't realize that the differences in the two mediums are so vast that you have to factor those things into consideration too. So if they had done this Seymour in the movie version, I feel like they probably could have gotten away with that ending.
Yeah, and that
But
was the thing, the difference between this movie compared to the musical and the movie is out of the three, because even in the musical, they made Seymour an orphan. They made him, they stacked a lot more
Tragedy.
tragedy on him and stuff in the other versions. And so that's why it's like, you feel bad for him. Out of the three, this is probably the least sympathetic Seymour of the three because again, he's got a mom who was very funny throughout the movie and stuff. She made me laugh a lot. But again, I think what they tried here is they didn't make him sympathetic. So when that bad ending happens, again, you don't feel bad. And I don't think that was Roger Corman's idea with this movie was I don't think he wants you to feel bad for Seymour for when he has his ending. It's when the ending happens, it's like, yeah, he kind of did it to himself. He took the monkey's paw, he made the wish, he made the deal with the devil without thinking of the consequences. And every time he had the moment where he could Because again, he gets multiple times throughout the movie, he gets the opportunity to back out. He can just let Junior die and things are okay. But again, he keeps feeding into the fame. He keeps the more and more it gets bigger, his ego gets bigger, Junior gets bigger. The more recognition he gets, the more people come, the more people say that and he's getting the recognition. He's like, you know what? Maybe I can let Junior get a little bigger.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. So. All right, guys.
But really, actually, I think
what?
I would disagree though at one point though, because I mean, you could make the argument, I think, that when he gets hypnotized by the plant after he's like fed up with it, that at that point, like, he has no control over his life anymore, because he's already let the plant, I guess, get too powerful. The plant is like so powerful now that not only does it have a will of its own, apparently it has superpowers now. It can hypnotize him, just like boom.
I think that's kind of an analogy of, again, like when you let things go on for too long, that it's like by the time, again, because by the time he's like, you know what, I think I'm done. And that's the thing you could say with fame, right? Is, you go, oh, you know what, I think I'm good now. I think I'm ready to cash my chips in. And it's like, no, you've lost that opportunity. You let it, you don't get sometimes with that stuff, you don't get to decide when you get to cash your chips in.
Yeah, now you're making me think of Smile 2.
Yeah, and that's what happened with Seymour, is that by the time he decides, you know what, I think I'm good, I don't think I need any more fame, it's like, nah, it's too late now.
Too late.
Junior's gotten too powerful now that you can't stop the train. The train's now left the station.
Yeah, the allure of fame and the eventual accolades that come with it. You've already sold your soul. You can't stop it until it's over and done with, and it's played its part.
Well, I think there's one guy who could have stopped it, and that's Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Are you ready for that?
Yes, because like we've already talked about, like, how he does try to kill this thing at the end with a freaking tiny, very tiny knife.
Yeah.
Clearly, Mr. Schwarzenegger could have done so much better. He could have had a machine gun to blow this freaking plant away, or a blowtorch. So let's imagine that now.
So
A much better ending, I think, if, say, Schwarzenegger got into a time machine and played this character. And Seymour, I could destroy this plant for you. So here we go, our Schwarzenegger alternator.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know, is a shtick that we like to do here every now and then, whenever I'm on, at least, where we imagine if your character had the kill line, or if the monster had the kill line. That's quippy kind of things that, well, Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger does better than anybody else. So let's imagine for a moment, in this black and white movie from the 60s, the young Arnold Schwarzenegger bulging out of his waistcoat and scarf. And so I got 3 different versions of his kill line for this evil plant.
Okay.
So here we go. Number 1. All right, let's see how you like being the fertilizer.
Okay.
Number 2. Oh, you want me to feed you? How about I give you a nice souffle of bullets?
Okay.
And finally, number 3. If he's gonna climb into the plant and basically sacrifice himself, he might say something like, "Yeah, all right, prepare for some grade A indigestion." Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. And Thomas, your Arnold Schwarzenegger. I always screw it up. You have to say your Schwarzenegger alternators. Are always entertaining, and I'm always yeah. I would love to have seen Audrey Jr. talking Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice. That would be something interesting too.
Feed me, Seymour. Feed me now, and understand me later.
All right. I want to thank you two for joining us on this conversation about Little Shop of Horrors. And for everyone listening, what we love to do at the end of our conversations is we like to go through and rate the movie between 1 and 5. 1 being horrible, 5 being amazing. But we like to do a little bit of a different twist on it by choosing an object from the actual movie or a saying or a quote or something instead of just your normal little stars and stuff like that. So, guys, we're going to rate the movie and we're going to go with you, Philip, first. Where on the spectrum do you put this movie and what do you pick out of the movie to put as your item?
I would say I would give the movie a 3.5 out of 5 talking killer plants.
Okay. All right. What about you, Thomas?
Well, let's see. Excuse me. Well, part of me wants to pick the dentist drill just because it's there and makes a little annoying sound that kind of, feels like the feeling of this movie. I almost picked the dentist chair because the chair falling over, I feel like, signifies the low budget kind of quick ethos of Mr. Roger Corman. But then I realized, no, that thing's too big. You can't make that into a star. So instead, I thought, I'm going to break from my usual thing, and I'm not going to pick the plant because that's too easy, Philip. Not saying that you're, wrong for picking it. It's fine. It's your thing. But what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to pick the thing that really defines this movie and defines it for its legacy, which is Jack Nicholson's cameo. That's really what's on the cover of most of these things. And if we are to believe Hollywood advertising, that man's performance makes this movie.
Okay.
So I'm going to give it, I'm going to be a little more harsher on this just because I love the musical version so much. And and like you, Kevin, I miss the songs and I miss the earnestness of that movie. I'll probably give this one 2.5 Jack Nicholson cameos out of 5.
Right.
We should also probably, speaking of actors though, we forgot to mention that this movie also contains one other Gremlins actor. This is the movie where the Futtermans met, because Dick Miller, who plays the Gardenia Chompin, I forget his name, but his wife in Gremlins is the actress who plays Audrey in this movie.
Oh,
yes, that is Jackie Joseph, and later on she played Mrs. Futterman in Gremlins.
Well, now that you say that, I was going to rate this movie as 3 dozens of roses for Mr. Dick Miller to eat for
Yes.
lunch. The thing is, even though my history with these two movies is that I've always hated the musical. I enjoyed the original because Dick Miller and other idols. But as time has grown, I've now enjoyed the freaking musical more because of Rick Moranis mostly. I love the voice and the singing of Audrey too. It's one of those things that surprisingly over the years I've grown to love the musical more than the original, but I can't separate them anymore. So that's why I do my double feature. Yeah, it's a weird thing with these movies. It is really weird, even me saying it out loud for the very first time. But I will give it 3 dozen roses, and hopefully Miller can stomach them all.
Oh, I'm sure he could. God rest him. I'm sure he could.
Yeah. So,
And he did eat those live. He did not it wasn't movie magic. No, he legitimately was eating those on set.
I'm not surprised at the line of spin because he seems like an actor that would do anything for Roger Corman, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, Dick was a serious actor.
With that, I want to thank you guys for joining us on Conversations in Horror. For everyone here who's been listening to our podcast, our rants about this movie, I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation. And please make sure to like, share, subscribe, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast, your favorite podcast app, Spotify, or YouTube. We will be continuing to bring you even more weird conversations about even odder films. And don't forget, we're going to be having a conversation on the musical version of this later on in the year, so you need to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Also, please make sure to check out our sister podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which is every first and third Friday of the month. It is one we dedicate specifically to Hammer Studio films, so if you are a fan of those classic movies, you will love that podcast as well. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, we want to wish you a pleasant day and stay away from those random plants, okay?
I didn't mean it.
Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.